What is up, everyone? Welcome to HiFi Turtle, where we talk about everything audiophile. Today I'm talking about a turntable. This is the TEAC, TN3BSE. It is a belt drive turntable. It comes in at $530 US and is my actual own personal turntable. I bought this thing several months ago. If you have been following my analog vinyl journey, you'll know that I previously had a vintage JVC model that I inherited, and the reason why I changed that up was really just because the JVC was starting to give me some problems. It would randomly kind of spin up faster or slow down and just not maintain its speed very well. Instead of getting it repaired, I just decided to make the leap and get something brand new. Now, I didn't really compare this to anything else in the market. I didn't look at any other turntable under $500 or look at different things, compare, do an A/B, anything like that. I really just jumped into the TEAC for a few reasons. One is that the TEAC had features that I was looking for in my next turntable, which would be the S-style arm. Since I have the cartridge that has the head shell on it, I wanted the S-style tone arm so that I could replace the cartridge easily without much hassle or needing to change things. The second thing is that I wanted to experiment with a belt drive turntable where the JVC was a direct drive. The TEAC is a belt drive turntable. So I've heard good things about belt drives being, the upper echelon of turntables. So I wanted to go in that direction. That being said, at the end of the day, as much as I've enjoyed this turntable, I can't recommend that you buy it. And I'm going to go more into details, so stay tuned about the TEAC TN3BSE. At $530 MSRP, this is considered what would be an entry-level audiophile turntable. This is where we start to see turntables kind of shed the features and novelty, I suppose, of Bluetooth, USB conversion, headphone in, etc. Which is kind of ironic when you think about it, that when it comes to audiophilia and the audiophile space when it comes to turntables, that we pay more for less features, which is just kind of a head scratcher. In the audiophile world, I know that removing these items typically is because you want to reduce cross-talk or noise, and eliminating additional features that you're not going to use anyway is a good way to reduce noise, but at the same time, it just seems ironic to pay more for less features. That being said, in this turntable, we do still have a built-in phono preamp, but you do have the option to defeat that and use your own external, which I typically did in this review. I used mostly the Schkit Mani 2 for my phono pre, although I will say that the built-in really isn't that bad. Yes, it doesn't have the same kind of vocal clarity or separation of instruments or wide soundstage, but if you didn't have anything else, I think it is a respectable choice. Just like the cartridge that the turntable comes with as well, the Audio-Technica VM95E. I used this very briefly just to get an idea with the built-in moving magnet phono, which again had respectable performance, I think, for the price range, but I much preferred my moving coil Audiophile MC Quintet Blue, which is something that I've been more familiar with and what I was using primarily on the older JVC. The turntable is really easy to assemble. There wasn't really a lot of things that needed to be adjusted or set up in order to get this thing to work. I've heard a lot of stories about belt drives in particular that can be very finicky and hard to get just right to where the belt does not slip off. I have never had an issue with the belt slipping off or never felt like the belt was not properly put onto the turntable. So I think that for my first belt drive, this was a very simple, easy setup. The tone arm is actually in a collaboration with SAEC, who is a very high-end Japanese tone arm manufacturer. I'll get into a little bit more about that later, but this is something that you're going to see exclusively on the TEAC turntable, and it gives it a knife point bearing, which is something SAEC is known for. And basically what it is it just balances the tone arm on a very fine point in order to maximize the separation between the tone arm's pivot and the actual tone arm assembly itself. There is no VTA. I don't believe the tone arm is actually replaceable, and at this price point, I don't think you would ever buy a external tone arm to replace it, because I think it would have to be much more expensive than the turntable actually is by a wide degree. This is a 2-speed turntable, 33 1/3 and 45, no 78, and my turntable initially was spinning a little fast. I did have to adjust the speeds, which can be done by taking off the bottom plastic housing, and then there are some little knobs that you can turn with the screwdriver. The aluminum die-cast platter is kind of cheap feeling in my opinion. It rings like crazy. I don't know if this was really a negative point when actually listening to the turntable, but it's something that just kind of annoyed me. So I actually ended up buying some car noise dampening material and sticking it onto the bottom of the platter. And that actually reduced the ringing quite a bit and kind of toned down that resonance that was coming off of the platter. I'm going to put a link below in the description for that material because I think it actually worked really well and doesn't affect the performance of the turntable at all. If anything, it would increase it. And it was an easy and removable tweak for the turntable. So relatively inexpensive as well. So I'll put the link below in the description if you're interested in that for your turntable, if it's got one of these platters that is kind of cheapy and rings like crazy. At the end of the day, I really just wanted something that would sound good, play the records that I do have, and when I do play them on occasion, and be something that was trouble-free, somewhat maintenance-free, and this turntable does do all of that. So you may be wondering why, if this turntable sounds good, performs well, hasn't given me any issues, why on earth would I start the video off saying that I can't recommend the turntable? One of the reasons why I purchased this turntable beyond the features that it did have was the name, honestly. TEAC is a well-known name. They've been around for a long time. They're legendary when it comes to CD drives. Even if you have a audiophile CD player that costs upwards of $10,000, $15,000, if you break it down, there probably is a TEAC CD drive that is actually the heart of that component. So TEAC's a very well-known company. I thought the table looked good. The collaboration of SAEC sounded impressive to me, not really knowing much again about turntables. But when I opened up this turntable to adjust the speeds, that's when I started to scratch my head. Because one, there's not really much going on here, which is fine. This is a very basic turntable again, and it's an entry-level HiFi model. But one of the things that I first noticed was the Suscon capacitors, which from my knowledge are some of the bottomest of the barrel capacitors. You could replace them with literally anything and it would probably be better. So I thought that was a little bit disappointing to see such low tier components chosen for this component that to a lot of people honestly would be very high end. I mean, this is over a $500 turntable. Look what Apple experienced when they tried to sell an over $500 headphone. People were going crazy saying like, what do you think I am, Elon Musk? Jeff Bezos? The second thing I noticed was really how generic the board looks. And you can see the portions of the board that have been removed for USB, Bluetooth, and other functionality of the board, which again comes back to my earlier point of it seems strange to pay more for less features. But in this case, it seems like we're getting the exact same board that is in the cheaper models that have the USB input and output, the Bluetooth, and other features, but just removed. No other customization or improvement to the internal phono or anything like that. Which led me down a path to do some more research on what I was looking at, what the components were, etc., which led me to a few articles which talked about turntables from a company called Yahorng. I'm probably saying that wrong, but it's a Taiwanese company that makes a lot of OEM parts for various manufacturers and happens to make quite a few turntables. Well, after reading these posts and seeing pictures comparing to other turntables made by Yahorng, I'm fairly certain that the TEAC is one of these turntables, which is very disappointing for the price point because again, like I said, this is a entry-level hi-fi turntable. This is something that is over $500, I think should at least kind of reek of higher quality. And when I saw the comparison to Fluence turntables and Ion turntables, a brand I've never heard of before, and other budget, entry-level, kind of cheaper turntables, I was disappointed because this is an over $500 turntable. But to me, it almost looks like the exact same turntable that you could get from Fluence or ELAC or Monoprice or Ion for $200. In some cases, even less than that. And while I did not pay MSRP for this because I'm cheap and I hate to pay MSRP for anything, I got this at an open box sale and paid around $300 for it. That still makes me scratch my head and say, was it really worth it? Or did I get just lost in the sauce of the name TEAC and SAEC? So now if we do compare the TEAC to an Ion, a Fluence, a ELAC Denon, or other turntable model that is from this Yohorn company, we'll see that the phono pre, the board that's being used, the motor for the drive, is pretty much all the same, the platter included. So what is TEAC doing that is so different that could justify this variance in price? Well, besides the name TEAC that I think audiophiles and a lot of people trust, and myself included, the SAEC tone arm, right? Well, that's a thinker as well, because looking at this and comparing it to other models in the Yohorn family, I don't see a lot of customizations on the tone arm. The tone arm itself looks pretty much the same as these cheaper models. The only difference is the knife edge bearing. So SAEC did put their mark on this, but when you hear that, you think the entire tone arm is designed, manufactured, or at least kind of put in thought by SAEC, where it seems like really just the pivot point is the only part of this where SAEC comes into play, and it's not the entire tone arm. And if you look at other models that are cheaper than this, if we go to the Monoprice monolith turntable, we get a carbon fiber tone arm. Is that better than this SAEC collaboration? I don't know. Is carbon fiber used in a lot of high-end turntables as well? Yeah, absolutely. But again, that turntable at MSRP is almost half the cost of the TEAC. That in a nutshell is essentially why I can't find myself recommending the TEAC to you, because even at a reduced price where it may be at open box, at the end of the day, I believe that it is just a Yohorn turntable. And this isn't a shot at Yohorn or saying that the turntable is bad, because this TEAC I think sounds great. I've really enjoyed all my vinyl records on this, and I think that it sounds good at the end of the day. But I could have basically the same turntable for half the cost. And that's something that I just can't see justifying double the cost to just get a slightly different tone arm bearing and some hexagon plastic built into the base of this thing. In fact, I think the Fluence version of this is much thicker in the MDF, and I gotta imagine that probably is more dampening or resonance defeating than this plastic honeycomb thing that they build into the bottom. This was a really interesting journey though. I had no idea that all these entry-level turntables under $500 or thereabout are pretty much all the same turntable regardless of manufacturer. There's slight variations in the tone arm choices and maybe some additional features and add-ons that the manufacturer ends up putting on. But at the end of the day, most of them are these Yohorn turntables. And with that, that's going to do it for me. I know this is a little bit shorter of a review. I know I didn't go into a lot of the details about the sound quality of this turntable, but again, I kind of skipped that a little bit because one, I do think it sounds good. I do like it. I think that for someone who's looking at these entry-level hi-fi turntables, you can be on this plane, this board, and it's going to work out for you. That being said, at the same time, since it seems like that the end manufacturer or the manufacturer of all these turntables, if I am going to compare it to anything in that $500 range or thereunder, it pretty much is going to be the exact same turntable with very minor differences there and in between. So I don't think it makes sense to compare it to that or really talk about in-depth details. And again, I'm really not equipped to do so because I blind bought this and really didn't compare it to anything else because it kind of just checked all the boxes that I was looking for. In the comments, I'll put some additional turntables that are cheaper that I also believe are using the exact same Yahorng internals. So if you do want something that is still in this entry-level hi-fi and sounds good, and I haven't had any problems with it because I think it is a good turntable at the end of the day, just a little overpriced, here's the cheaper models that you can check out and basically get the same quality. As always, thank you for watching. If you like this video, make sure to hit that thumbs up, subscribe. It really helps me out. Check the links below in the description for other ways to help support the channel. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.